Coming up, a medical mess. A clinic in Mount Pleasant says it will have to turn away patients if the federal government doesn't reopen by the end of this week. More than 30,000 patients on Medicaid and $60,000 federal dollars are on the line. Also, new Fed head. President Barack Obama nominates Janet Yellen as the new president of the Federal Reserve Bank. If Yellen's nomination is approved, she will be the first female head of any major bank in the world. District Wire News starts right now. Good evening, I'm Taryn Stansbury. Today marks day 14 of the government shutdown. The Senate has been working all weekend, but no end to the shutdown is in sight. If no deal is reached by Thursday, the United States will default on all its loans for the first time in history. Hitting the debt ceiling with no agreement would be a huge blow to the global economy. The Senate is currently debating how much the government should be able to spend and for how long the debt ceiling should be raised. After the Senate makes a deal, it would then have to be approved by the House and the President. D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray is pushing Congress to end the shutdown and give the district budget autonomy before it runs out of funding completely. On Wednesday, Gray warned that city services are in danger of ending because the city's emergency funds are running out. The D.C. Council approved the use of emergency funds to keep the local government running, but the city has not received authority to spend its own local funds for city services. Columbus Day closures in D.C. may be a hint of what's to come if the government shutdown continues. D.C.'s Department of Public Works says there will be no parking enforcement or trash collection today. Both services could be suspended again because of the shutdown. D.C. has been using emergency funds to continue operating, but the funds are expected to run out this week. The federal government shutdown starts its second week today, and this week it's threatening to shut down a low-income clinic in Washington, D.C.'s Adams Morgan neighborhood. If the clinic doesn't receive federal funding by the end of this week, they'll have to shut their doors until the federal shutdown is finished. Sydney Kashiwagi has more on the story.
Low-income medical clinic Mary Center doesn't get $600,000 federal dollars by Friday. This busy waiting room right here could soon be empty, and Mary Center's doors will be forced to shut temporarily. The clinic is D.C.'s second largest medical provider for low-income patients and sees more than 30,000 people annually, most of whom are on Medicaid or a local public health insurance plan called DC Healthcare.
It affects me because I'm retired already. Sometimes the money is not enough. Go to regular doctor. The medicine is expensive too.
Isbella is one of the 30,000 people that Mary Center sees, and come Friday, if the clinic has to shut its doors, she will be forced to pay out of pocket to treat her mentally ill son, who visits the clinic every week for checkups. Without funding from places like the Department of Health, Mary Center will not just have to figure out how to care for its patients, but how to pay its 415 employees.
Well, I would not feel really sad because this clinic helps a lot of people for my community, for example, Hispanic people, all the people I think, so they help.
Last week, the director of D.C.'s Department of Healthcare Finance told affected healthcare providers that because the DHCF can't access local funds from the district's budget or take from Medicaid funds, the department will suspend all federal subsidies until the shutdown ends.
You close this clinic is bad for me, for everyone.
But the clinic is still open as of now and are hoping that the government will retroactively pay them once it reopens. But right now, they are just trying to scale back on services and deciding what to do if they shut their doors on Friday, and whether or not they too will have to furlough its staff. Reporting for District Wire News, I'm Sydney Kashiwagi.
The shutdown is now affecting homeless youth in D.C. as well. The Sasha Bruce House is the only shelter in the district for runaway and homeless youth. Because federal funds aren't being paid out, the house must furlough 46 full-time staff. The shelter will continue to house youth who have no place to go. But programs that provide food, clothing, after-school programs, and AIDS testing will be cut. More than 1,500 kids get help from this shelter every year. Winning the lottery is hard enough, but because of the government shutdown, it will be even harder to get your winning payout. The D.C. Lottery says payouts will resume, but not until the government shutdown ends. Even though the lottery is funded only through ticket purchases, the D.C. Lottery director says payouts are not essential, as defined by Mayor Vincent Gray. The U.S. is making history this week despite the government shutdown. President Obama nominated Director Janet Yellen to be the new chairman of the Federal Reserve on Monday, and this nomination is making the country talk. Jade Vakil has more on the nomination. Jade?
Thanks, Taryn. Janet Yellen may have lost her position as the vice chairman of the Fed on October 4th, but she gained her new position and has a whole new journey ahead of her as the new head of the Federal Reserve. Her new position may expire in 2024, but she is making history with this position as the first female chairman of the Reserve in the bank's 100-year history, as well as the first woman to run a major central bank in the history of the world. And while Yellen has many supporters, she also has a lot of obstacles she's facing getting to the top.
The Federal Reserve, the U.S.'s central banking system, was created in 1913 after the U.S. faced multiple financial panics. And still to this day, the Fed has helped stabilize and solve some of the U.S.'s most severe financial problems with the help of Vice Chairman Janet Yellen. President Obama said she helped the government understand some of the major impacts of the 2008 financial crisis.
But I also want to announce my choice for the next chair of the Federal Reserve, one of the nation's foremost economists and policymakers, current Vice Chairman, Janet Yellen.
This nomination not only makes her the first woman chairman of the Federal Reserve and one of the most powerful women in the U.S., but also the first Democrat to be in charge of the Fed in 26 years.
And Janet Yellen is an economist who is more kind of liberal, who thinks that low unemployment is very important and potentially more important than, worrying about inflation.
Some conservative groups say they believe Yellen's liberal views may impact the economy negatively, saying her easy money views make the prices soar. But others are more focused on the impact her new position may have in helping young women take leadership roles in business and economics.
I think that having somebody at that caliber, at that level, would mean hiring other people at the mid-level and even lower level. And with that being said, having those people in those positions creates more of a sponsorship of women internally.
While Yellen says she's honored to take this role, she says she is hoping to continue to make a strong financial system.
Maximum employment, stable prices, and a strong and stable financial system.
And when Yellen starts her position January 1st, 2014, following Chairman Ben Bernanke, she'll be standing beside other powerful women around the globe, including IMF Chief Christine Lagarde and German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Now back to Taryn at the desk.
Thanks, Jade. As the November 5th elections loom, time is almost up for Virginians to register to vote. The Virginia State Board of Elections is reminding voters that registration ends on Tuesday. Virginians are encouraged to check their registration status and polling place on the board's website, www.vote.virginia.org. Voter registration applications sent by mail must be postmarked by Tuesday. The Virginia State Board of Elections announced yesterday they plan to purge up to 57,000 registered voters from the state rolls. The Democratic Party of Virginia has filed a lawsuit against the board. A high number of registered voters and a large turnout are usually a big advantage for Democrats. The hearing is scheduled for October 18th, 3 days after the voter registration deadline ends. Workers in the D.C. area could be getting a lot more money soon. New legislation would gradually raise the minimum wage in the region to $11.50 per hour by 2016. The D.C. City Council is getting together with Montgomery County and Prince George's County to pass this series of bills. The bills will go up for hearings in each county at the end of October. The Department of Education and the Obama administration have recently launched an initiative to help better inform students about student loan repayment options. Student debt has become more common among college grads, and the problem continues. Sydney Kashiwagi has more.
Out of the 20 million Americans that go to college each year, more than half take out student loans to help cover the cost of their education. The average cost of a public university is over $20,000, and if you're at a private institution, $40,000 and up. And for many Americans, their dream of attending college would be impossible if it weren't for the help of student loans.
I have one student loan for each year that I've been here, so that's 3 right now. And each one's about $20,000 per year.
About $1 trillion is the amount of outstanding student loan debt in the U.S., and something that is on the minds of many American students like Kirali, who will graduate with about $80,000 in debt, is the fear of repaying back their loans. Close to 15% of borrowers have gone into default just this year alone and are now unable to pay back their student loans. But this fall, the Obama administration and the Department of Education have launched a campaign to help inform student loan borrowers about what types of repayment options are available to them.
There's all these different programs, and so it's very easy for students to get confused.
Education experts like Gillen say that the Obama administration and the Department of Education's campaign is a step in the right direction, but fewer repayment options could help ease student debt repayment.
My parents were completely clueless on what to do with student loans. And for the Department of Education to come in and help them out, it's really a weight off of a student's shoulders.
But right now, there is still roughly $85 billion worth of outstanding student debt in the U.S. Reporting for District Wire News, I'm Sydney Kashiwagi.
Some Muslim families will not send their children to school in Montgomery County on Tuesday to celebrate the Muslim holy day of Eid al-Adha. Muslim families across the county are trying to make the holy day into an official school holiday. They point out that school is closed for other religious holidays like Christmas and Yom Kippur. The school board says they give excused absences for students that miss classes for religious holidays, but Eid al-Adha is still not an official holiday. For many AU students, it doesn't take a full 4 years to get an undergraduate degree. Graduating early at AU is a definite possibility for a lot of students who come into school with AP credits and finish general education requirements early. Sarah Weber has more.
For the typical American college student, college lasts a full 4 years. But for the typical AU student, college can last up to a year less and still be filled with internships and time abroad. University-wide, between 3 and 5% of AU undergrads finish in 3 years, and around 8% graduate in 3.5 years. Students in the School of Communication have had an even higher rate of early graduation.
Some students graduate early simply because they can, because they finish their requirements and they decide that that's what they want to do. Some students might graduate early or aim to graduate early just to save money, which is definitely a benefit of graduating early.
Even though early graduation rates are high at AU, it's hard to know if graduating early was worth it.
There's definitely both pros and cons. Students who have come back as alumni will tend to say that they wish they had stayed a little bit longer at AU because it's that kind of one chance to be a college student.
Every student has a different reason for graduating early, but wanting to start graduate school early seemed to be the most common.
AU, they really have good courses and they really have great professors, so I think that the professors that taught me really told me about real life situations, and they also taught me a lot about the coursework which I will soon be getting into. AU definitely prepared me well.
AU's career-focused curriculum has helped many early graduates enter the workforce and graduate school prepared and ready to succeed. For District Wire News, I'm Sarah Weber.
Coming up, the U.S. Solar Decathlon. American University competes. Our special guests will tell you all about Team Capital DC and the energy-efficient home they created. And sleeplessness on campus. Are college students doomed to a life of endless papers and little to no shut-eye? We'll explain after the break.